Our series begins with Kujin, a high school student who believes that everything will be easy after graduating from high school, and he starts talking about his group of friends at school, a bunch of guys who are just as laid back as he is, with the first being Izion, whose whole life revolves around food, but who surprisingly dances really well. Then there is Taeonian, a boy who sleeps like a capybara and does not care about school, the streets, or even transportation, because he can fall asleep anywhere. After that comes Bongju, and all that can really be said about him is that he is a typical teenager whose entire world revolves around girls. And finally, there is Seongbin, nicknamed the well-mannered boy who is new at school and completely different from the rest. And the moment he wore real branded shoes, someone stepped on them and dirtied them. But Kujin says that despite how different they all are, they are friends who care deeply about each other. And then we see them enter the classroom joking and laughing together until they suddenly freeze, with silly smiles on their faces when they see someone ahead, a girl named Seon, the school's diva, who is said to be beautiful, kind, intelligent, and the top student in the class. So all the boys at school admire her and dream of dating her. Except for Kujin, who, when he hears the others praising her beauty, says she is not that great and calls her arrogant and full of herself, claiming she never impressed him, though in truth, no one really cares about his opinion. And soon the first class begins as the teacher walks in and starts writing on the board, while Kujin quietly tries to get Bongyu's attention, but Bongyu ignores him. So Jin starts throwing things at him and eventually tosses a milk carton that accidentally lands on Sean's desk and spills all over her, making her scream as the teacher turns around and demands that Quinn and everyone who caused the disturbance stand up, after which she kicks Quinn, Seon, and Baeon-yu out of the class. And while they are being punished outside, another teacher appears and scolds Kujin for his behavior, telling him to grow up and pointing out that he is always being punished by some teacher. Then the teacher is surprised to see that Seon is also being punished since she is the top student and class president. And he also scolds Bongyu before turning back to Kujin and telling him that starting today he will sit at the desk in front of Sean so she can educate him. And later during gym class, Seon is watching her friend Yisu perform, or rather show off, when Jin leaves the basketball game he was playing and mocks her by saying, "Do you think that fake stomachache you're pretending to have counts as dancing?" And then calls out, telling her to show them how real dancing is done, after which Hyeon starts dancing and showing off even more, which annoys Seon because of how he is treating her friend, so she confronts him and says that someone as rude and classless as him will never get far in life. But before he can respond, Seonbin hits him on the head with a ball because Seonbin really likes Seon. And later that night, Quinn's parents are happy that their son will now be sitting next to an outstanding student like Sion, hoping it will motivate him to study, with his father even preparing a good meal to help him focus. And the next day, the home economics teacher enters the class and immediately announces a surprise test in 20 minutes, telling everyone that anyone who forgot their textbook should simply leave the classroom. Seon looks for her book and realizes she forgot it, and Kujin, trying to act like a hero, secretly places his book on her desk and tells the teacher that he forgot his own, then walks out to take the punishment. And even though he says nothing, his gesture moves Seon deeply, making her feel bad when she sees Kujin doing leg exercises as punishment. While inside the classroom, the teacher walks around yelling at the students and calling them failures. But Seon is completely lost in thought, not paying attention to the teacher at all, and instead focusing on Kujin's doodles in the notebook. And afterwards, she approaches Kujin and thanks him for his kind act. But instead of responding politely, Kujin tells her that she should not come to thank him empty-handed, and that she should at least bring food or a drink. And at that exact moment, a basketball hits him on the head, thrown once again by Seonbin, who calls him to play. And after the game, Seonbin warns Kujin not to speak rudely to Seon or make her angry again, but Kujin does not care and walks away. And sometime later, Seon gives Kujin a study guide with all the expected exam questions, telling him she made it just for him. But Kujin takes it and throws it onto his desk without interest. Then she calls him again and hands him a reference book, saying she is trying to thank him in her own way and that the materials she gave him should help him pass at least half of the exam. And when Kujin tells her to stop worrying about him like that, she gets angry. And later that night, Kujin studies a little, not school subjects, but boxing moves, trying to learn from a book, which does not work. And his first move ends up knocking over his bag and dirtying Seon's notes. So he quickly cleans them. And when he opens them, he notices how beautiful her handwriting is, which captures his attention, and he keeps reading until he finishes everything. And the next day, Seon is sitting with Taiwan and Ju when Kujin enters and hands Seon his answer sheet, saying he solved everything, shocking everyone because he actually studied, and even Seon cannot believe it. And while checking his answers, she finds 2 mistakes and asks him to fix them, which makes him start studying more seriously at home, at school, and during any free time he can find. And then one day, there is a theft in the classroom, and a teacher enters and tells everyone to sit down and close their eyes while he checks their bags. And when he checks Ision's bag and finds it full of food, he mocks him and accuses him of stealing money to buy all that food, even intimidating him for being fat, which makes Kujin angry as he asks how much was stolen and says he will pay it himself just to stop the teacher's bullying. But the teacher gets angry and kicks Kujin out for challenging him. And Seon stands up and supports Kujin, saying she also rejects bullying and wants to be punished too. And then Hyeon Seon, Taiwan, and the rest of the group join them, all being punished together outside, where Seon cries because it is her first time being punished, but they cheer her up by laughing and making her smile, and Kujin admits that this is the first time he realizes Seon is truly a beautiful girl. And after some time, they all go on a school trip together, spending time taking photos. And as usual, Taiwan sleeps through the whole trip while Hyun never stops eating. And when Kujin gets bored, he suggests playing a game called Wooden Horse, but it turns out to be more of a punishment than a game, and because of that, Seon Bin and Kujin end up fighting, with Seon Bin hitting Kujin in front of all the girls, causing Kujin to jump on him and hit him back, while the rest of the boys try to separate them but fail. And in the end, the teacher decides to punish all of them. And when they return to school, Seon and Jisoo join the rest of the group for lunch, where Jisoo asks Kujin and Seong Bin if they have already made up, and Kujin explains that their fight was easier than girls' fights, and the next day they play basketball together as if nothing happened. And suddenly Taiwan tells them that a nearby school is now haunted and shares a story that happened there about two girls studying late alone, when the girl sitting in the back dropped her red pen, and as she bent down to pick it up, she noticed that the girl in front of her had no legs, causing her to panic as she kept crouching and standing up to confirm what she saw. And then the lights went out, and the last time she looked up, the other girl had disappeared. And in front of her was the ghost of that legless girl approaching her in a terrifying way. And since then, people say the souls of the two girls still wander the school. And after all the scary talk, Jisoo hits Taiwan out of fear and storms off angrily. And that same day after classes end, Seon talks to Kujin and tells him that final exams are near and asks if he would stay with her late at school while she studies, since she usually stays alone. And to convince him, she challenges him by saying he would not be able to study properly or get decent grades, which sparks his competitive spirit. So they make a bet where if Kujin loses, he will shave his head, and if Seon loses, she will not tie her hair for a while, making her look like a ghost. And Kujin knows Seon only made the challenge because she does not want to be alone at school late, but he does not expose her. And over time, Kujin starts studying more than ever, keeping his promise as he stays with Sean at school every day until late, determined to win the bet. So much so that he even makes his father sit beside him and peel onions while he studies just to stay awake. And after the exams, one day, Sean is sitting alone late at school studying again when suddenly the power goes out, making her panic as she quickly packs her things and in her nervousness drops her red pen on the floor. And when she bends down to pick it up, the lights come back on and she finds Kujin standing in front of her with his head shaved, looking like a pineapple. And we realize he lost the bet, and on their way home it starts to rain, so they run and take shelter at a bus stop, and suddenly a car appears. A car splashes through a puddle and soaks Kujin completely, and at that moment they leave the shelter and start playing under the rain, joking and laughing together. And the next day, Kujin is sitting with the boys when Sean walks by with her hair down, looking absolutely stunning, making everyone freeze and stare at her in amazement. And over time, Kujin realizes that he truly likes her, even finding excuses to stand next to her whenever she is outside the classroom studying. And then the day of the college entrance exam arrives, their last day of school, and after the exam, they cannot contain their excitement as they go out, celebrate, and hang out in all the places that were forbidden during exam season, even going to the beach in the middle of winter, running around and enjoying themselves. And when they get tired, they sit down and talk about their dreams after high school, about which universities they want to go to. And everyone has dreams except Seon, who despite being the best student and studying the most, still does not know what she wants to become. And on the day of the university interviews and graduation, everyone gets accepted into the schools they wanted. So they leave the classroom and celebrate by throwing colored powder at each other. And Seon sits aside with Jisoo. And when Jisoo asks who she hopes will confess his love to her, Seon whispers that she loves Kojin and hopes they end up together. And the boys come over and throw colored powder at them. And after the celebration, Kujin and Seon leave together. And on the way, Kujin pulls a small bracelet out of his pocket, hesitates for a moment, then puts it on her wrist and asks her to never take it off, using it as his way of confessing his feelings. And Seon blushes and cannot say anything in response. And the new year begins with everyone going to their respective universities. And Kujin discovers that university life is nothing like high school, as he has a lot of free time, goes out, stays up late, drinks, and gets completely drunk. And unfortunately, as time passes, his relationship with Seon begins to fade, with times when she calls and he is busy, and times when he calls and she is not available, causing them to start acting cold toward each other. And then one day, Kujin checks his phone and sees the photos Seon recently uploaded, noticing a random guy appearing in all of them sitting close to her, which makes Kujin jealous. And he finally replies to her, and she tells him she will visit him tomorrow because she misses him, making Kujin extremely excited to see her again. And the next day, he picks her up at the bus station. And the moment he sees her, he feels dazzled because she looks radiant. And then they go to a romantic restaurant where the waitress assumes they are dating and tells them they look cute together, making Kujin so nervous that he cannot even look at Seon. And after lunch, they take a walk. And that same day, Kujin decides to confess his love, but not yet, because he wants to do it in the most romantic way possible so Seon will remember it forever. And the next day, Kujin puts up a sign announcing that he will start boxing training at the university gym. And on his first day, he is paired with a small and weak guy, and Kujin rushes in and starts punching the poor guy like crazy. And later, Later, Kujin sees that Sean had called him, so he sends her a message apologizing for not answering and tells her he was at the hospital, which scares Seon and makes her call him immediately to ask what happened, and Kujin explains that he started boxing training to enter a tournament next month, trying to convince her that it is just a sport he loves and wants to pursue, and he asks her to come watch his first match, but she is still not convinced and hangs up, and then the day of his match arrives and Kujin fights but gets completely destroyed in the ring, as his opponent does not hold back and keeps hitting him as soon as the bell rings, and the worst part is that Seon is there watching everything happen. And after the match, Kujin goes out and finds Seon, trying to act calm and pretend that losing does not matter, but Seon is clearly upset, and Kujin tries to make up with her by saying she will think differently once she sees him win a match, but Seon stands up to leave, and Kujin begs her to give him one more chance, and just then two drunk guys sitting nearby start mocking Kujin and making rude comments towards Seon, which makes Kujin furious as he lunges at them. And sometime later, we see Kujin and Seon standing on the street, with his face clearly showing the marks of the beating, but him smiling as if nothing happened, while Seon scolds him and tells him that this is the second time he did not listen to her, saying he is acting like a child and needs to grow up because he is no longer in high school. And Kujin gets frustrated and shouts that he is doing all of this because he loves her and is trying to become strong so he can protect her, but unfortunately they separate, with him leaving her behind. And when Hyun, Seongbin, and the rest of the group hear what happened, they rush to the city where Kujin is studying, though in reality they came to see who could win Seon over now that she is single. But to be fair, Bongju quickly realizes he has no chance and backs off, instead going to Kujin to try to comfort him, and they hang out and drink a lot until they are completely drunk. And because they are drunk and not thinking clearly, they get into a big fight with some soldiers, leaving Kujin beaten again. But this time something clicks in his mind as he remembers his father once telling him that if a man truly wants to grow up and become responsible, he should join the army. And so that is exactly what Kujin does, and over time, through intense training, Kujin begins to change, transforming from a reckless boy into a disciplined and mature man, while at the same time Seon Bean tries to get closer to Seon and win her over. But she rejects him and tells him directly that he is not the one she likes, and that single comment completely shatters him. And one day, Kujin hears that a massive flood has hit Seon's city, and instead of calling his parents, the first person that comes to his mind is Seon. So he runs to ask the officer in charge for permission to make a call to check if she is okay, and at first the officer refuses, but when he sees how genuinely worried Kujin is, he allows it and even lends him his own phone, telling him he only has 3 minutes. And Kujin is filled with joy as he quickly dials Seon's number, and when she answers, she assures him that she and her family are safe even though the flood did affect the city, and they talk for a bit until Seon finally confesses something, saying that on the day they broke up, she was actually planning to tell him that she loved him too, but he never gave her the chance. And because of everything that has happened and the distance between them now, she tells him that it is too late and that it is better for them to remain just friends, and the call ends with both of them agreeing to stay in each other's lives only as friends. And years pass as we see where everyone in the group ends up, with Taiwan using his love for sleeping to start working at a mattress and bed company, Bonggu no longer being the wild and careless boy he once was, as he grows up and becomes a famous chef in the city, Jiyeon reducing his obsession with food and becoming a successful commercial and music video director, with Jisoo ending up as his assistant after learning how to dance with him. And as for Seongbin, the well-mannered boy from a good family, he studies hard and becomes a government prosecutor, now widely known because his father is a famous judge. And then there is Kujin, who may not have achieved something grand like the others, but followed the field he always loved since childhood, becoming a known author who writes illustrated stories about boxing champions. And one day, Kujin receives a call from Seon, who tells him she is calling to confess something, and then invites him to her wedding, explaining that her heart now belongs to someone else. And at her wedding, the whole group gathers together once again, with everyone being happy for her, except Songbin, who still seems to be in love with her. But even though no one loves Seon more than Kujin, he is the happiest of them all because she finally found someone who truly loves and values her. And in the end, after all the boys once fought over her, Seon rejected them all and walked down the aisle in white with someone else. And with that, this drama comes to an end.